My first inspiration came from my dad, Edgar Batiste, who's from Reserve, Louisiana. And he was a contemporary and childhood friend of Edmund Hall, who played with Louis Armstrong, the clarinet player. And he had a picture of Edmund Hall and his clarinet above our old Philco radio. And he had a picture of Benny Goodman and Joe Louis. And those were the foundations. The summer before I went to high school, I hooked up with Harold Batiste because I was a little jive artist and I used to draw things. And his brother, whose name was Alvin Batiste, had asked me to bring him some art to his house. And when I went to Harold's house, which was about 5 minutes from my house, we both stayed uptown, right in the neighborhood of the Dewdrop Inn. You may have heard of that. And they had a record on the box. Well, I don't think it was the vinyl. I don't think it was the long play hadn't even come into existence. And I said, man, what is that? And he said, that's Now's the Time by Charlie Parker. I said, what? So I kept asking him to play it again. You know, the record may have lasted 3 minutes. It was calmer for me to bump into this environment. And then the Dewdrop Inn was right across the street. And so, like, at any time you may see somebody like Ray Charles, well, even Nat Cole. A lot of the great R&B singers, Joe Turner, Little Richard, you know, all of Fats Domino, all of those people were in this particular era because the Dewdrop Inn was one of the 3 clubs that I knew about in the black community during that time. When I was in high school, I used to troll the Times-Picayune paper. And on Sunday morning, we threw the paper at 3 o'clock in the morning. And my parents didn't know, but I kept a clean shirt under the step, one of those wooden steps that were open. And I'd come back to my pad, get my clean shirt, and my clarinet was under the steps. I'd take my clarinet, catch the streetcar, I'd go down to Bourbon Street and hang out with Lee Allen, Earl Palmer. I used to just go around and play with everybody, yeah. And I could do it because I played the clarinet. And it wasn't competitive to the trumpet players and the trombone players like that. So that was a great inspiration. So by the time that I became a junior in high school, I was running the clarinet section. And that's how I got a chance to get a scholarship to go to Southern. But in the background of all of that, there was a musician named Clarence Ford who had gone to Booker T. Washington. And there was Warren Bell and Wallace Davenport and Edward Frank, who, like Ellis Marcellus, had a piano at his house. There were 2 pianos, the instruments that we knew about in the black community at that particular time. And we used to wear their houses out because everybody would go there to gig. When I went to college, you know, a hotshot clarinet player would get a scholarship to play in the concert band and that kind of thing. During that time, the marching band was not as evolved as it is now. That was just a thing that we did on a functional basis. In my junior year, I was instructed to go to the office to sign up for student teaching. I said, well, what is that? Then that's when I understood clearly that I had enrolled and was matriculating on an education program because I had come to Southern University to play. And after I graduated, I was going to go to New York and get rich and famous. So in my senior year, there were about 7 of us who met an interviewer from New Orleans. The very first football game that we had with the band, I had if you can believe it, a 13-piece band. Man, the students at intermission wanted to go and get hot dogs and all that kind of stuff. Well, I didn't know nothing about that. Mr. Davis, Ms. Barthay would never let us leave the stairs to go get nothing unless she brought us as a group, So I wouldn't let them go. So we were coming back home, and they were singing on the bus, "We want a new band director." So I went back home, man, and I was in tears. I said, "I'm a complete failure." And 8 years, 10 years later, I had a championship band. I had received the first grant that I'd ever received, and I was in Oregon, and then went to Los Angeles to Alvin Batiste's house. He was working with Sonny Bono then, and I got the call, and said, I put the phone. I said, "Edie," I said, "they want me to come to Southern." She said, "Well, make them get you a raise." So I said, "Well, how much?" She said, $100. So I said, "Well, if you give me $100 raise," and so Dr. Bird, because I know he must have been laughing behind the phone. He said, "We'll get you a raise, Batiste, and we'll do a little better than 100." The first 3 years I was working with the marching band, so I started writing in the concert band, conducting. Man, I heard a band from the University of Illinois playing like all of the jazz bands, like Stan Kenton, Duke Ellington, Buddy Rich. I said, "Man, I can't believe children are playing like this." Well, I mean, I really became irate about it. I said, man, this is ridiculous that we don't have a jazz program at Southern. There was a lot of resistance to it because no jazz program had existed in any African American school in the United States at that particular time. And so everything was done after school and on the slide. In fact, there was one period when when I was a student, when we used to have clandestine jazz jam sessions with the kids at LSU and Southern. We'd get together and play because the music was never segregated. It was just the places that you had to play. So anyway, one of the guys, Dr. E.C. Harrison and Dr. Netterville, they were sympathetic to it, and they say, "Okay, well, what we're going to have to do is make it impermanent. Say we'll call it the Jazz Institute because your colleagues don't want it." So we called it the Jazz Institute, but we knew that it was going to be permanent. The experience at Southern University makes me very appreciative of having that opportunity. But I also have a great respect for the numbers of students that I was able to touch because it's really an honor to work with talented people and for them to be receptive and then free enough to continue their own direction. I consider myself very fortunate, like it's like a blessing.
Check this out. When I say 12 bars, I'm talking about spaces of time. And you can organize these spaces of time by counting. 1, 2, 3, 4 is one space. 2, 3, 4 is another. And what's next?
Like the young students today, they should be paying attention to whatever's happening. All music is good. Some of it is played badly. And if it's played badly, it's because the players do not know their instruments. And so the first thing that the students have to do, regardless to what music that you're dealing with, and this has been brought out in all of those kids that I've had the honor to work with, is that you have to learn your instruments. And you can't limit your knowledge to just digital instruments because the other instruments are not going to go away. They're going to get better. The technological civilization will not destroy the analog instruments in music like it has done in the past, because in the past, communications were limited, uh, artistic experience did not was not available to the world civilization or the global community like it is today. In American music, the music mirrors the democratic process, the hope of democracy, where the individual expresses himself or herself within the context of the group. So this is the first music to come along where, in terms of a cultural rule, you learn who you are.
Oh, we here this morning. We're gonna learn about the blues. And when you really get the blues down, it's because you have paid your dues. When you do the blues right, you cool it and you don't have to fight.
I think that when you start thinking about whatever you remember about what I've said, you'll realize that everything that we do musically is going to really result in some human experience. There is a human experience that is broader than any discipline, one singular discipline that we can have. And so whatever you do it well, thinking, experiencing, and dreaming. And I think you will be able to appreciate some of the blessings that I've had.